In this video, I want to quickly show how fast and how easy it is to put together a REST API in Ruby on Rails. We're going to start off with a fresh Rails application. And our API needs some resource to serve up, so we're going to create a resource called users. Our users have a first name and a last name. If we start up the server, then we should be able to already see the Rails welcome page. What we were interested in was the users modules, so first of all we need to create the users table, and then we can go to the users page. So this is a default HTML file that Rails has set up, and it's good enough for us just now to create a few users for the database. So let's create John Smith. And we now have a users table with a couple of records in it. If we try to go to users.json just now, you see that it's already being served up by Rails. If we have a peek behind the scenes in the users controller, we can see the controller is configured to respond by default to JSON. There's a nicer way to do this though. It's a lot drier and it's a lot easier to extend in future. So I'm going to show you quickly how we can do that. Remove a bunch of this code that we don't need. Okay, at the controller level we want to tell the controller to respond to HTML format and the JSON format, and then simply say respond with in the controller actions. So we want to respond with the users here, user here. We don't need new or edit actions for the API because the API won't be rendering up any templates for those. In the create, we want to save the user first and respond with either the new user or the initial record with errors. In update, we want to update the user's attributes from the parameters and then respond with either the newly updated user or the user with errors. And we want to respond with the user again on the destroy action. So now, if we try and load up the page again, we can see that in about half the code we've been able to create the same effect. If we want to go to a particular user, user number 1, we can see the attributes just for John Smith. User number 2, we can see Jane Smith. If you want to create a new user through the API itself, then we can just send a post request Steve Steve Jones, and send that to localhost 3000 users.json. So you can see the controller has logged the post request to users JSON with the parameters Steve Jones, and it's inserted a new record in. And if we load up the page, we can see we have our third user here, Steve Jones. And this JSON here is the JSON that the API responded with when we made the post. Same if you want to delete a record, just send a delete request. Let's get rid of Steve. So that's a delete request for user 3, and now we no longer have a user 3. Earlier I showed you that actually we're choosing which MIME type to respond to in the controller itself. The reason I prefer this method over the other one is because it's a lot easier to extend with new formats. If you want to add the XML MIME type, then now our API responds with to XML as well, whereas before it'll just kick up an error with a blank file. That's how to put together a REST API using Ruby on Rails. As you can see, it's really, really easy.